22 years ago, Hillary Clinton made one thing very clear. She values her privacy. Some White House staff of the Clinton era describe her and the former president as paranoid to the point where they rewired the phones in the White House. Now, the recent flap over her private email account during her time as Secretary of State has this question top of mind. Is the issue of transparency going to be a big headache for her in this campaign? Let's bring back in my panel. Fiery panel we have on the show this evening. Brian, I'm going to start with you. Her relationship with the media.
Well, the New York Post cover might say it all today. Oh, Hill, no, it says, and then it says no, 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 and just keeps going on there. Now, that's the New York Post. It's a Murdoch paper. You sort of expect that from them on launch day. But there's been this concentrated attempt to really have a restart in relations between the press and this campaign. There were these secret off-the-record meetings on Thursday and Friday night in D.C. and in New York between campaign aides and reporters and anchors, some from CNN, some from other outlets, a real attempt to have a restart. Now, at the same time, we're not see her do any big interviews. I was told by aides today there's no plan yet for a first big sit-down interview with Hillary, the campaigner. It's very different from Marco Rubio. Marco Rubio is going to do Fox, CNN, ABC, NBC, and CBS all in the next few days. So I do wonder how long she can go without doing any interviews.
All right, let's take a look at this poll number. A Bloomberg Politics poll found 53% of voters believe that she purposely withheld emails from her time as Secretary of State or was not truthful about them. And then juxtapose it with this, a CBS poll finding 65% of voters said that email scandal didn't change their opinion of Clinton. What does that mean? Did they expect it? Do they not care about it? Which is it? To you, Ben, on that, what's your assessment of that?
Look, I think there's a lot of people that expect this is how the Clintons act. This is what they've expected from them. They're not very transparent. Hillary Clinton is not going to be transparent. And I think her campaign is smart to keep her off this big interview. There's too many questions that will come up in a big interview if she did one tomorrow that are going to be negative because of all of the issues she's had recently with lack of transparency. You can't do an interview without talking about her emails. That will be the big soundbite. So from a campaign standpoint, and I think, and the foundation and foreign funds coming in from foreign countries, was her double dipping on the, while she was, being the Secretary of State. Those are issues that I honestly think her campaign is being incredibly smart on. Keep her out of that situation because it's not going to help the campaign. It's going to get them off message. And so if you can put out a video and just smile and raise money right now when you don't really have another candidate going up against you in the Democratic Party, that's the best decision they can make for her because the liability is too big.
Let's listen to what Rand Paul told CNN about exactly that issue that you bring up, Ben.
I believe and have been told that there's going to be information about donations to the Clinton Foundation that may or may not have had or could possibly have had influence over who gets to do business in various countries around the world. Some of these countries very sensitive to our national security. And the question here is, are they skirting election law? Are they taking money and potentially getting influence bought by foreign countries through a foundation?
Lisa, to you on that, right? He talked about it this morning in his interview with our Dana Bash as well, pointing to Saudi Arabia, et cetera, with, human rights issues, women's rights issues, and saying the Clinton Foundation, run by her and her husband and the whole family, is taking this money from these, foreign countries, and it is just not right. My question to you is, do you think that that resonates with the average voter?
Well, absolutely. We know it does. I mean, look at the Quinnipiac University polls recently that shows that these scandals have actually hit voters in critical key states like Iowa, like Colorado, and Virginia. So it's absolutely having an impact. It's reached beyond the Washington, D.C. political bubble, and it's hit voters at home. And that's going to be problematic for Hillary Clinton. And why it's also problematic for her is not only is she a flawed candidate, but this further perpetuates this notion that Hillary Clinton is entitled, that she's above the law, that she's above the, that she's above the rules and above the regulation. This is someone who in 2008 had said that she's one of the most transparent public figures, but we're finding out that she's anything but. And every time that she goes to Iowa, every time that she goes to New Hampshire, she's going to get questions about her private server. She's going to get questions about the Clinton Foundation. She's going to get questions about Benghazi.
So she's going to Iowa this week on Tuesday. Sally, to you, look, Iowa was sort of the beginning of the end for her in 2008. She came in third there. What does she need to do differently this time around to prevent exactly what Lisa just pointed to?
Yeah, look, I think it seems to me she's doing the right things, the things she needs to do, which is when voters are asked, look, she's overwhelmingly the leading candidate, very strong favorables. You can tell by the slings and arrows Republicans are desperately trying to dig up. You know, what she needs to do is reshape her image to directly connect with voters. And I think it's great. I think it's great that she started online. I think it's great that she's going to go do these smaller conversations, not do big events, that she's going to really sort of try and present herself more as this direct, you know, person-to-person contact. Because to be honest, the actual biggest thing that hurts her right now is the sense that her candidacy is inevitable. And everyone inside the campaign knows that. They're trying to be very to send a lot of caution that is not the case and that they don't want to act that way. Because the more that they act that way, the more the right is mobilized against her, and the harder it is to mobilize her own base, because you want an enthusiastic base of supporters.
So Mark, to you, is interesting column by Maureen Dowd in the New York Times this morning talking about how she's really playing up Clinton, that you know, being a grandmother. She wrote this new epilogue to her memoir, Hard Choices. She talks about being a grandmother, and Maureen Dowd wrote this, quote, "This was designed to rebut critics who say she's too close to Wall Street, too grabby with speech money and foundation donations from Arab autocrats to wage a sincere fight against income inequality." How does she do that effectively?
Well, I think first of all, those types of critiques are going to come in primaries. They're not going to come in general elections. No GOP candidate is going to suggest that Hillary's too close to Wall Street. Because Hillary is the prohibitive favorite in the Democratic pool, I don't think that's as big a deal as some people think. I think the biggest deal that Hillary Clinton has to wrestle with is the foundation question, not the Wall Street question. Because there's no Elizabeth Warren-type figure running up against her, it's going to be the foundation question. It's going to be the email question. It is not going to be the Benghazi question. Hillary has attempted essentially over the last few months and really the last year to transform herself. That's why the video had her at the end. She wanted to show herself as someone who was a person of the people. It's a fake populist message. She wants to show herself as someone people like, because people naturally don't like Hillary Clinton. She's trying to become more likable, and the grandmother thing is something that Americans can relate to. It makes her a person again, and that's what she's trying to do. And I think that can work a little bit, but at the end of the day, people don't like Hillary Clinton, and they don't trust the Clintons, and that's going to be a significant challenge for her in the general election. I think she can win, but it's going to be an uphill battle.
It's always an issue with big candidates. I mean, when Mitt Romney, people kept saying about Mitt Romney, you got to be more personable, you got to be more average Joe. It didn't work, and sometimes people are smart enough to figure out what they really look at you as. If Hillary Clinton tries to overplay this, I'm a sweet grandmother, it will backfire on her the same way that when, you know, Mitt Romney was trying to be the average guy that you'd want to drink a beer with. He's not that guy, and Hillary Clinton, in the eyes of the majority of Americans, is not a sweet, tender, loving, kind grandmother. She's a hardcore politician, very partisan, very private, and somewhat shady on her everyday life and politics, and that's how they're going to look at her.
Well, guys, thank you. Everyone, we're out of time. Appreciate it. But I promise you, we have 575 more days to talk about it. Is that the right number, Brian?
Is that all?
Thank you all very much.